There's a lot of electricians out there that say never to use one of these things. And then there's a lot of electricians out there that are like, y'all are stupid. Absolutely use them. They're totally fine to use. So who's right? All right, so ignore the horrendous background here. I did not wire this panel. I would never wire a panel that looks like this. And if you do work like this, you should be ashamed of yourself. You're a professional. Do good work, people. All right, so what I have in front of me is a non-contact voltage tester, sometimes called a ticker or Tic-Tracer or a sniffer. There's all kinds of things that people call this. But what it does is it tones at you when you're around an energized source, right? It's telling you that there's energy present in a system. So what the problem with these is that people misuse them and they don't understand when they're supposed to be used. There's two things that electricians use all kinds of multimeters for, test equipment. We're either trying to figure out if there is a presence of power or an absence of power. Now, yeah, sure, there's like meters that have like power quality monitoring, all kinds of like specialty meters. That's not what I'm talking about. Most of the things that we use every day as an electrician, when we pull out some sort of a meter, we're trying to figure out, is this thing energized or is it off? So if you're trying to figure out whether or not something is energized, these are perfect for it, right? This tells me there's a problem here, or there's not a problem. It just tells me this thing's energized. And if I'm gonna go do work, I need something that can tell me and verify that everything is shut off. And these things are not built for that purpose. So if you're gonna test voltage, right? We would grab a multimeter. Let me grab one really quick. I've got one of these things. Right? This can tell me if something's energized for sure, but if I'm about to stick my hands in something, I need a number. I need to know how much energy is available and between what things, right? I need to verify between a lot of different things. If I'm gonna stick my hands in something, I want to know damn sure that there's no energy lingering between any two things that if I accidentally touch something, current can flow through my body and I can get hurt. And you can't do that when you just have a single point non-contact voltage tester. So we can use that for the presence, right? But for the absence, we need something like this. So when I'm using a multimeter, I'm going between two things. This says that there's 215 between A and C phase. A and B, 215, 216 between B and C. But I can also test between, each one of my hots and ground. I got 124 volts. This one I've got 125 volts. This one I've got 124 volts. And I can even check between ground and neutral and make sure that they're bonded correctly at the service. I should have 0, and I do have 0. So this gives me information. And if I were to go outside and flip a disconnect and turn this entire panel off, I would come back here and I wouldn't use a non-contact voltage tester to tell me that everything's okay to work on. I want to know if there's energy between stuff, because that's how it would go through my body, is if I connect my hands between stuff. So we would use a multimeter for the absence of power. And if I come in here and I test all of these things and there is 0 energy available, I feel safe. I can put my hands in this and I know I'm not going to get shocked. I would not use one of those Tic-Tracers or non-contact voltage testers for that assurance with my life. So how do these things actually work? It's really interesting. First, we need to kind of dive into electromagnetism at a base level so that you understand magnetic fields and electric fields and how they differ and how they're kind of opposites of each other, sort of. All right, so electromagnetism, electricity produces magnetism, electromagnetism. They're kind of two sides of the same coin. It's like space-time, right? Like it takes you time if you're gonna traverse space. So they're interlinked. You can't separate them. One makes the other happen. In fact, the reason we even have magnetism is from electrons, from electric fields inside of atoms that align in certain tricky ways to make something overall magnetic or not magnetic. But also the inverse is true. So magnetism can produce electricity. I've got a coil right here. This is what we would call an inductor, but it's just a coil of wire. If I were to take a battery and provide electrical energy to this coil, current is going to flow through it. So I have an electric field across a power source, right? I have a positive and a negative. So inherently, I have a stored up electric field. There's energy stored in that. And when I connect it across that electric field is going to extend all the way through the entire circuit. And it's going to make a difference of potential from this side to this side. There's going to be a voltage. And because of that electric field pushing current through this coil, it's going to produce a magnetic field around the coil, both on the inside and on the outside. And the shape and geometry of all of this can affect how strong that field is. And if we were to stick like an iron core in the middle of this, it's going to focus that magnetic field a lot stronger. So you get a stronger magnetic field. But there's things that we can do, but this is how transformers work, right? We put one of these around two sides of a transformer, and we utilize that magnetic field that's just in thin air next to another one for it to kind of like capture that field and start doing stuff. So it's like the closest thing we have in this world to magic. But that's inductors, right? That's an electric field being applied to something that's producing a magnetic field. It's just a byproduct that happens. But we can also do the complete opposite thing. I can take a magnet and induce current flow through a conductor. If I were to take, this is not magnetic, this is plastic, but let's pretend it's a magnet. If I were to push this through the inside, it's going to cause a difference of potential through this conductor. It's going to cause some of the charges to slightly move one way, which means there's a lack of charges on the other side, which means now there's a difference of potential between the two of them. So I can actually make current move by just running a magnet next to it. And this is how motors and generators work. Electric motors and generators are inverses of each other, but we take a magnet and we utilize the magnetic field around that magnet and we start to spin it. And so now we have a rotating magnetic field that's next to conductors. And so it automatically makes current flow through those conductors just because of the magnetic field through thin air, right? So that's the electromagnetic induction motors. But both of them are true. We can generate electricity by utilizing magnetism, or we can run electricity to something and make something turn, make magnetism happen, or we could just do it through a coil. So if we look, there's two different kinds of coupling, we call this, that happens. You can have inductive coupling or capacitive coupling. So in a transformer, what we have is a solid iron core that strengthens the field. So we run a conductor around one side and another conductor around the other side. These are completely isolated, but because we run time-varying electric fields, we have current that's constantly rapidly changing, we have a magnetic field that keeps expanding and collapsing 60 times a second with the change in current flow. So this rapidly expanding and collapsing magnetic field jumps over here and starts to make an electric field appear from one side of this to the other side of it. So now we have a voltage. Because we had the electric field over here producing a magnetic field, the magnetic field produces an electric field, and it just works magically through air. Not magically, scientifically, okay? It's not magic. But we can couple two conductors really close proximity to one another without ever touching and do electric stuff on one side, and then electric stuff on the other side happens. That's why I call it magic, because it's like the closest thing to magic. But this is just inductors. This is using inductance, and we're using this inductor setup to create magnetism. That's the whole function. It's like we want the magnetic field. The magnetic field is how it works, and the rapidly changing magnetic field is really how it works. It's not a constant field, it's a rapidly changing one. That's key. But we can also do the same thing with capacitors. Rather than using magnetic fields, we can use electric fields. So I can take something like a capacitor, all it does is you build up charges on one side, build up charges on the other side that are opposite charges. And because you have a difference of potential now stored up between them, you have an electric field in between them that can do stuff. It can store energy. So both of these are storing up energy, right? Like I've got energy that's stored up in between these two conductors. Well, really I have energy stored up in the field surrounding an inductor. But in a capacitor, I have the same thing. I have energy that's stored inside of a field, but it's just not a magnetic field, it's an electric field because there's electric charges between them. So between them, there's an electric field. It had nothing to do with magnetism. But because they're both like kind of inverses of each other, capacitors and inductors are often inverses of each other that do a lot of similar things. They just do it kind of in an opposite way. So with a capacitor, we have something that provides one side or one plate of the capacitance relationship. And then we have something on the other side, like a wire maybe, that produces the other side of the coupled circuit. So it doesn't have to be plates though. Like this is the drawing you're gonna see in a lot of textbooks and stuff, that there's plates and that if you change either the size of the plate or the proximity towards each other, you can change the electric field. So that being said, when we have one of these guys, what we've really created is a capacitor. The wire is one side of the capacitor. There's a whole bunch of charge stored up inside of this capacitor, or this wire. The other side of the capacitor is this thing. So this detects the presence of an electric field, specifically a time varying electric field. 60 hertz is what we work in. The closer that I bring this together, the stronger the capacitance gets. So when I get to a certain point, this thing's gonna start beeping like really, really crazy, but as I start moving it away, it's gonna lose that coupling. Because again, we can change capacitance. We can make capacitors really strong by putting the plates super close to each other. The field's at its strongest right there. And as we start to move the plates away, we don't really have a very strong capacitor anymore. It's the same thing with this, and for the exact same reason. So this is how they work. It's just capacitance. All you're doing is, this thing is saying, hey, I'm sensing some kind of a electric field, a time varying electric field. On something nearby, there could be several things and you're kind of in the area and this thing's toning off all kinds of different things. This is why you need to understand how they work and how to use them, so that when you're getting a little dee-dee-dee-dee-dee, you know what it's actually doing, and that it might be getting caught up on many things in the area that all have time varying electric fields. So the reason though that they get stronger is because we're bringing it close together, and that's why it starts to tone at you. Now there is this thing with some models, some brands and variations of these, that you can put this on a wire and walk away and it'll still just work fine. But there's some of them that when you put it down and walk away, once you stop touching it, it stops toning. But other brands that doesn't happen for. And a lot of it has to do with the engineering and the reliability on whatever body of charge is around. So your body has charges as well. Metal, like building steel, everything around that has charge, that has electrical charges, contributes to this capacitance. So a lot of the manuals, when you buy these, they'll say if you're not touching it or if you're insulated in some way, they may not work correctly. And the more that, if I touch this thing, now my entire body is like a bigger capacitor plate, so it gives it a better signal. So it just works better when we're in contact with it. But like most of the things that we're working on in buildings, if you have a really good quality one, like this is a Fluke 1ACA. I've got a couple of different models of Fluke I'll show you here in a second. These are like top-notch super quality. So they're a lot more reliable and you don't necessarily have to stand there. But you have to read the instructions because there are some things that it specifies. Like I mentioned earlier, don't use these to verify whether power is off and it's safe to work on something. Use them for the presence of power to detect if something is live. And then always go grab a multimeter if you're gonna shut something off, and then pull the multimeter out, and that'll tell you whether or not it's safe to work on something. But there's a lot of little disclosures and stuff in the paperwork, so when you get one of these, understand what it is and why you're using it and what you shouldn't use it for. Now, I've got a few different options in front of me. These are all Flukes. I just am Fluke ride or die for my whole career and always will be. So I trust Fluke with my life, quite literally. I've got 3 different options here that they've sent to me. So this is the 1ACA2. This is probably the most common one that you're gonna use. You just turn it on and it tones at you, right? These, you need to be kind of careful when you're using them, because if I were to push this button and hold it, it comes on, but there's no beep anymore. It has just a light visual level, and it also has an audible level. So some people will stick this in and maybe they can't see the tip of it and they're like, oh yeah, everything's off because I don't hear beep, 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 beep. So make sure that when you're using these, that you click it once and you'll get the audio. So just be careful, because again, people get hurt because they don't understand these things. They don't understand what they're doing. They just saw some electrician go, oh, dee, I can go work on that now. So but that's like kind of the everyday carry basic one. If you want to start getting a little bit fancier, there's this one right here. This is the LVD2. This is a volt light. So what's cool about this one, you can actually see the capacitive coupling and the strength of that time varying electric field in action. So you push this little button on here, the tip of it lights up. It also gives you a little flashlight, which I think is awesome if you're working in a dark area. But notice that as I get closer here, it starts to turn blue, and I get closer and it starts to get like a pinkish purple, and then boom, it's red when I'm touching something. So you can see the strength of that field changing as I get closer. I just think that's really cool. You kind of see, it hones in on exactly what thing you're talking about. Because if I'm right here, all of these things are hot. So like, what am I actually detecting? And it's like, okay, once I actually get to the thing that I'm talking about, I know exactly that I'm on the right thing that this is detecting, instead of confusing all of these other different things here. So these are really cool. And then the last one that I have is just an always on. So this thing doesn't have any buttons. It has a battery check so that you can, before you use it, you always want to make sure, okay, my battery's good. You don't want to just stick this into something and you don't see a light and you didn't realize your batteries are dead. Or there's like, you know, you let it sit in the back of your truck and there's like moisture that corroded out the leads inside of here. So that's another thing. Some people don't realize they treat these things terribly. They throw them around, they get banged around their truck, and internal electronics can break on them, and they go up and they're like, oh, it's dead, nothing's happening, it's safe for me to go put my hands in, and then they get shocked. And on that note, you need to make sure that your multimeters are in good working order, because if it's not, you can still kill yourself. So sometimes, like I was mentioning with these, this one is just constantly on. There's no button. So if you go use it and the battery's dead, you can kill yourself because you didn't realize that this thing's not working. So you have to test it on something. Luckily, they give us a battery test. So, okay, I have a means, I know this thing's in good working order. But multimeters are the same way. So there's this process called test for dead. If you buy yourself a NFPA 70E, every electrician should follow it just as much as we follow the National Electrical Code. But it talks about this idea of test for dead. And so you need to do something to make sure that your meters are in good working order and that they're not lying to you. Because things get damaged, stuff happens. And there have been cases where somebody has gone to use a multimeter and they think everything is working and they test and they don't see any numbers pop up on the screen and they reach in and boom, they're seriously injured. So test for dead, the idea is I need to take a known energized source or energized piece of equipment, like these lights. This is on right now, it's plugged into a receptacle. So I should go, before I use this thing, and just stick this in there and be like, okay, cool, shows me 120, I know my meter's working. It's as easy as that. And then go and test whatever you're working on, knowing that you can trust your meter. But there's little problems that happen, like this, this meter specifically, this is the T6 1000. These leads can come off. How I normally check to make sure my leads are secure is I put it on continuity on a little ohm symbol and I touch it. If I get a tone, I know there's a complete loop. So it's ringing out at me telling me I'm sending something and I'm receiving it. You're good to go. But if one of these leads is a little bit disconnected, it's gonna lie to you. So you need to make sure everything's pressed in. But it's not even just the continuity function. You need to make sure that it's actually gonna detect energy levels as well. So you need to go to a known energy source, use it, make sure you get values. And if you're putting it into something that's a known, that has energy in it, and you're not getting any values, you know, like, whoa, something's up with my meter. Let me grab my other meter, go test it. And you're like, oh yeah, okay, there's something screwy with this. Glad I didn't just risk my life and die because I didn't realize there was something wrong. And on the something wrong, take care of y'all's meters. This is life-saving stuff. This is what makes you an electrician and makes you good at your job and makes you safe and going home to your family at the end of the day. So take care of this stuff. Don't throw it around. Don't let it sit in the back of your truck when it's raining. Don't drop it off of ladders. Like, keep this stuff in really good working order. All right, old man, off my soapbox. But I hope you guys learned something. I hope you understand now. The one point I just want to really drive home, if you are trying to see if something is energized, use these all day, totally fine. If you're trying to ensure something is not energized so that you're safe to go work on it, use these. You can still use this. You can be like, you know, well, there's no wire over here. I'm sorry, there's nothing to show you. But you can use these and it'll go beep, 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 beep. And you're like, okay, there's probably some energy present here, but also use these. When you do a test for dead, use these all you want. Go shut the power off, stick it in there, there's no power, but back it up with actual information. Grab your multimeter to double check. This is your last line of defense to ensure that when you stick your hands in something that you're gonna go home at the end of the day. That's all I got. Love you crazies, and I'll see you in the next one.